Welcome, everyone. It's a Monday time for birthday. Our lineup today. We're talking all things Star Wars because what else is there to discuss? So join me in welcoming our group today. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's time. Let's go. This is great. Everybody's here. Hey, everyone. Let's see.
Hello.
All right. What? I know how to do this show. Feel free to laugh. God, it's good to see you all. This show is what?
I know. The Acolyte. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. All right, everybody introduce themselves, starting with Dante.
What's happening, guys? Thanks for having me on the show. And yeah, man, I'm ready to talk about what weird creepers the Jedi are.
Hey guys, it's Script Doctor back, giving you all the details of why the writing in this is bad and also why it's inauthentic. So I can't wait to get into it with you all and this awesome panel.
What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. So we've come to the end of the road with the Acolyte, but somehow, like Boys to Men, I can't let go. I wanted to keep going because this has been the most fun I've had with Star Wars in a long time.
Someone's got to read Super Chat, so that's why I keep coming back. That and to go over, I don't even know what's going on anymore because an hour interview with Leslie Headland, and I don't think anyone knows what she's actually doing. Let's get into it.
Hello, I am Nerd Cookies. You can find me here on YouTube where I discuss sci-fi and fantasy news and lore, and I can't wait to talk about this poor excuse for a show. I feel my brain is dying.
I'm Alan Ng, editor-in-chief of Film Threat. All I can say is we have one more episode left, and I believe wholeheartedly it can get worse. It can absolutely get worse, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it can get worse. On that note, and before we get into our conversation, quick reminder, Wednesday, July 17th, the day after the Acolyte season finale, probably the series finale at this point. I don't see it getting picked up for a season 2. We are putting on a global event. That's right. Funeral for a franchise. This is a very serious, not to be mocked. It's not funny, real funeral that we're doing on YouTube. And everyone here will be in attendance along with other people you know on YouTube. Everyone from Neurotic, Critical Drinker, you name it, they're on the show. Yellow Flash is making an appearance. A lot of people. And it's a very serious thing. We will be laying rest this franchise. Here's a quick tease. So join us next Wednesday for this. You watching can participate. Post your eulogy on Twitter, Instagram. We'll find it. Hashtag Star Wars Funeral. It is a global event. And if you'd like the shirts that, Alan, myself, and Badge are all wearing, you can get if you go to shop.filmthreat.com, discount code Star Wars is dead. It's going to be It's going to be, it's like, you know what no one would remember this. It's going to be like Battle of the Network Stars, but with YouTubers. That's what it'll be.
Wow, that's a deep pool, man.
Yeah. Even Dante remembers
love
that. So join us for it. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. Time to get into it. Finale theories. We have 1 episode left. There's 8 episodes. It's weird. It struck me. I saw House of the Dragon last night.
Quiet. Don't spoil nothing.
Nothing. It's so good. It's like savoring a well-cooked steak. It's amazing. Every episode, and whether something happens or not, everything is consequential. There isn't a wasted scene. There's not a wasted line. Script, you probably agree. It's a well-written show.
Very tight script and really well paced.
Well paced. It was a little over an hour. This was a little longer.
You know what? I just have to say real quick on this. I binged. I just started watching House of the Dragon last Thursday, and right now I'm up to episode 3 of this season. So that I'm only a few episodes behind. But I got to tell you, man, the palate cleanser that came with watching House of the Dragon. I miss good writing, man. Like it honestly, it was good for my soul watching House of the Dragon.
Yeah,
it's like a real TV show.
Yes,
made by professionals who know how to do television.
The same effect it had the first time, except Rings of Power that time, that it was cleansing us up, and now it's here to save us from this and other things.
The irony is that Ryan Condal actually pitched a Conan the Barbarian series at Amazon, and they killed it because it was far too violent and sexually exploitative.
Jennifer Salke decision.
HBO just sweeps them up with House of the Dragon, and look at that. They're killing Amazon in those numbers.
Yeah, well, it's just the contrast is striking, but there's one episode of The Acolyte left out of an 8 episode series, and there are so many conflicts. The show is all over the place. How are they going to wrap this up in 26 minutes? I want to hear everyone's theories, because you've got Saul's confession, Master Soul. You've got Osha May conflict. They're both separated. That's something that happens in Star Wars a lot. Primary characters get separated, then come together. How do you see this thing wrapping up? I know I agree with Alan. Whatever happens, it'll be awful. Well, what do you all think? Jump in and give us your theories.
Well, my predictions are Osha and May are going to merge into one whole Rick James. and there's going to be a big dance sequence at the end with her and the other witches to Super Freak.
Twin flame.
There you go. I don't know where they're going to go with this. Go ahead, Nerd Cookie. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think they're going to do the first Force dyad so they could justify that horrific element they introduced in the sequel trilogy. I think that is what it was leading to all along.
Yeah.
And Kiadi Mooney is just going to back out of the room like, I don't see nothing.
I mean, how do you wrap this up in one episode?
You don't. They don't have a way to do it. That's why she's been talking about a season 2. She's been trying to get a season 2 talk, in the conversation. Say, oh, if it gets renewed, we're gonna keep going deeper into, Darth Plagueis. And I'm like, look, nobody wants to see any more of this, with the exception of the people that want to laugh at it. They have so many loose ends that they're gonna try to tie up. One thing I'm curious, how are they gonna connect this to the to the sequels? Because I think there was a mention somewhere that Kylo Ren's music was playing when Khmer was on screen.
They're shipping Khmer and Osha, and it's a Reylo thing.
Is that what it means? Is that what it's connected to? Okay, because somebody was saying, "Oh, this might make it the Knights of Ren. This is the first of the Knights of Ren."
And in the interview, she asked that the Nerdist. She did a really long Mary Sue interview that then Theory reacted to and got attacked, and then she did a really long Nerdist where she explains almost everything. None of us knew what the fuck is going on. I swear, her ideas of what was happening at that last episode are completely different than what everyone else thought. That's a long way to say I have no idea, and I don't think she does either.
I think my only
in the interview.
I think my only real prediction is they're going to make the Jedi look even worse in the finale.
Yeah.
Well, are they ever going to get to the point where I thought this series was supposed to be an exploration of the Sith? and I haven't seen the Sith really explored at all. So that's like we
Exactly.
That's
we
the
got
rub. I
like
don't
you know
think we
we
have.
got taken for a ride with this whole situation because that would have been interesting. Okay, let's explore the Sith. Let's dive into the Sith. I wouldn't have had any Jedi in this show whatsoever. We're just going to deal with the Sith, the rule of two, and deal with that. Nothing. We've seen nothing of the sort. So it's like, all right, are you finally going to get to that? Probably not, because it's just been a bait and switch this entire time. Also, Leslie Headland can push her "I hate Jedi" nonsense, which is
She
just
mentions
ridiculous.
at the
That
end of
is
the
so
interview
true.
that
We're
if
at
she
episode
got
7.
if she got another season, she would connect it to Plagueis and the Sith, basically tacitly admitting we haven't seen the Sith. We've seen a dude that's been kicked out of the Jedi and then been rejected by another dark side Force user master and boo boo bee boo, and now it's a him and Osha shipping thing. I still say we haven't seen any Sith.
Can I make
but it goes back to, what is this show about?
Right. That's
It
what
was
it was
about-
supposed to be
right.
about.
What is
That's
the
what
show
it was
about?
supposed to be
It's about
about.
a
It was
bot.
supposed to be.
To
It's
show
about
you
a
don't
bot
understand the
recruitment
Jedi.
Guys,
mission.
it's about sisters. That's what it's about. It's
And
about
lesbian space
sisters.
witches.
And I would not be surprised if Saul is the only survivor, but he exiles himself, which inspires Yoda to exile himself at the end of this prequel trilogy, because he's just so embarrassed and cannot face the council and what has happened and what he has done because of his weird, creepy ways of so desperately wanting a Padawan, and also inauthentically thinking that because these two girls, which seem to be perfectly healthy and fine, and maybe they're raised by a witch covenant, but you know what? They're alive. They made it to that age. That's a good sign of parentage right there.
Yeah, I can tell you, Leslie answered all this, by the way. She explains how they were made, what they were made for, what's on the planet. I could tell you all of it, or we can keep guessing. But the point is, she contradicts even herself at the end of that interview. But
Yeah, I read that, and you could definitely see why the show is written the way it is. She contradicts herself so many times. This show has no conviction because she has no conviction. She
Yeah,
doesn't know
I
what she
think-
wants to tell.
I feels like, bitch, you wrote it. You wrote it. You should be the one to know.
Okay, well, here's my, and I watch a lot of streams. Someone brought this up and it makes sense. All the Jedi who were killed come back to life. Their lives are saved because of the planet itself being the center of strong force power, like the planet Genesis in Star Trek.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
Well, that mean the
Yeah, I
witches
know
come
you're
back to
That would
life?
be on
serious.
Brenda,
Jedi.
The
There are other
virgins,
Jedi
They'll
Jedi.
all come back. No, so no one died.
the Force
No,
Nexus or virgins
Yes,
is in that
something like
pit that.
that.
They're worshiping.
Some
And Leslie
BS
said it's
thing.
like the thing. That's why it's an old mining facility. That it's
Yeah.
not exactly good or bad. It's been uncovered, and everyone
Right.
dies, and it's uncovered again. So, I mean,
But that's
And
not
it
really
will
in the
fade
show. Like,
Star
that's
Wars.
what's terrible about it.
none of what she says is in this goddamn show, including what she says Mother Anastasia is doing at the end when she turns into a big smoke demon monster.
'Cause
Yeah,
that
she's
makes
trying
sense.
to take her and May into the Force or some nonsense like
She's
that. That's what
transforming into the Force in a way that will not kill them.
Yeah,
Oh my
which is killing them. See, that's what you're saying too, that she can't have conviction in what she wants to do.
Or it's what
he
Mother
literally
Coral
cites
does.
what Jackie says, and Jackie says, "Oh, it's a privilege to watch anything transform into the Force." Right after the bug was killed, so it was in reference to death in that way, and that's the only time that's ever referenced is transforming into the Force that way. But she's like, "Oh, she's transforming into the Force in a way that doesn't kill them." That is literally an oxymoron. That is not.
yes.
You can't
You know-
transform into the Force and
Yes.
not die. That's
Well,
kind
they
of
turned it into apparating. It's what Coral does at the end, where she looks like she's apparating away into black smoke. That's just a
Yeah,
power
when
they
you
can
hear
do
her
now.
talk about it, you can definitely see why the show is the way it is, why nothing
Mhm.
anyone does makes
She
sense
has no
because she
rules.
herself does not know. She doesn't adhere
Yeah.
to,
Yes.
she doesn't know what her characters want. She's guessing. She says, I think Anastasia's motives are this. Well, don't you know? You wrote it.
Yeah, there's no room for thinking when you're writing a story. I mean, I've seen this actually in screenplays recently where they're like, oh, this character, maybe they're doing this. It's like, no, there's no room for maybe. Everything has to be planned and organized in a story because you have to shoot it. And if you have ambiguity, then you don't have a story. And the aspect of this is that so she's transforming into the Force. Well, we've already seen really two strong examples of that with Obi-Wan and Yoda. That's how you transform into the Force. You just kind of vanish and some of your robes lay behind and the rest of you're there and you live on within the Force. But she's now trying to conflate that, no, you don't really live on the Force. You just kind of meld with it in a more different way, but you don't do it through the normal way that we've seen, the very, low rent special effects, but still effective. You do it in this elaborate kind of turning into the cloak and dagger of the Marvel universe and surrounding one of your children.
Showing their
But
witch
even in
version
that
of it.
transition, it can be
Well,
still
yeah.
quite a
Remember, this
lightsaber.
isn't the Force. This is the thread. So you gotta get your
No, no,
terms
no.
right, guys.
She
They transform
confirms-
it into the thread. This is
So she
different.
confirms that they're
You know
using
what?
the
You know
Force.
what? I
like
know
a
someone who
smoke.
has a great idea, a great theory as to what's going to happen next, and that person happens to be in the green room. Yes, 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 yes.
What were you thinking? Hey,
What the hell was
Yes.
that?
joining the show.
The introduction. That's how you bring people on.
Yeah. Joining
You're
the
going to
show,
force yourself in there somehow.
That was
Jesse
amazing.
B. Snider. Hey, Jesse, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Jesse Blaze Snider. I'm a 20-year veteran of comic books, and I make music. Lots of people know me as D. Snider's son. Yeah, that's the thing. But I'm in the entertainment industry. I'm a fan first, a toy guy, a statue guy. And I know the business of being a geek as well as the professional side. I do a podcast every week called Geek Alive, and I kind of know some things about this. And, if anybody else has been paying attention to what the fans have been saying, it's almost as if we're like psychic prophecy makers about what they were going to do with Star Wars. Because I can remember a time where there were all these people who were on the fence about whether or not, well, come on, they're not going to take it there. They're not going to make the Jedi into the fucking bad guys or anything. They're not going to defile them and turn them into Catholic priests of the freaking Star Wars universe. Yes, they did. I have been thinking about doing this shit as like a parody comic, as a joke, and they are doing the joke full force. And they have people defending it wholeheartedly. And I think everybody out there knows that if you had told all these people, 6 years ago or whatever, that this was the literal place where we would be, the type of storylines that we were discussing right now is going on in the Acolyte, they always said, no, never. No, you're overreacting. That's not what's going to happen. And here we are. Holy shit.
Yeah, but at least we have Grace Randolph on our side now.
Yeah,
no,
Things are bad.
finally.
Yeah, we did for a couple days, and then
We converted her.
I'll just say this.
Wow.
The theories that I've heard everyone discuss, they are writing a better show than we are watching. And I'll say, and Script, you know about this, when a character is so well written and so well defined, and a lot of that is done in short, you learn everything about a character in a short period of time. When that is so well done, other people can go off and tell stories with that character. You've heard this before in writing, the characters write themselves.
Yep.
These characters are so terribly written. I have no guess. I have no clue. My feeling is it's going to be awful no matter what. So,
Well, we do know
yeah.
it's confirmed from that interview with the Nerdist. I don't know if y'all care about spoilers or not, but Coral, the other mother, and Kamir do not know each other, apparently.
what do you
if we
mean?
Can take,
She says they don't know each other.
they don't know each other. So if she is the mysterious Sith master or whatever behind the scenes that we haven't met yet, I don't know. So take that as you will. Like, we can actually take her word at anything of what she means.
She also said
by it.
magic is a thing, and that they used nature and magic and the Force to create the twins. She said a lot of things in that
Can
Nerdist
I at least
interview.
can I defend some of that? Because there's some aspects of that.
Bro,
that
your
have been
internet
done.
is
It-
potato.
no, well,
We
in
can't
the
really hear what you're saying.
extended Universe in the extended, they've done a lot of things that are adjacent
hear
to
it.
this. Like, some of those things can be handled well. That there's a lot of perspectives on the Force and ways to use the Force, and I like that. That's a deepening of the mythology. It's
Hey,
how
Jesse,
it's
wait,
being
your
handled.
internet is pretty bad. Do you want to
Is it
leave and
really
come back
still?
or restart your internet?
Let me try again. I'm gonna
Restart. Okay, come on back. You
got.
got the link. All right.
Based on that, I'm going to get into a script doctor fight if he's going to start defending what they're doing with this.
I'm not defending that.
No, I meant like another type of thing. Yeah, I know you're not, Doctor. Neither am I. That's the thing. We might be teaming up on this one.
Well,
Well,
I
I
mean,
think
the
someone
concept is
wanted-
that when you have writers that love a franchise, but they introduce weak ideas, but they're not enough to cripple the franchise, it does give an opportunity for a bad writer to take that weak idea and actually do some real damage.
Yeah,
And that usually comes down to the fact that there's not really any sort of due diligence done overall with the story. And this is not just unique to Star Wars. This is unique to everything. Everybody's trying to make something new and exciting and different and experiment a little bit because they want to engage and entertain the fans. And you know what? You can never 100% guarantee what's going to be received well and what's going to be received negatively. Well, I mean, nowadays we have a better concept of that overall, but the fundamental rules are if you're following, like, say, I'm defining this character, I'm going to make them really solid and strong, and I'm going to speak through them, but also they're going to speak through me as we coordinate and tell this story to make it up more authentic. That is usually where you're in your safe space. But when you have something like what Leslie Headland is doing, where she's completely thrown out everything that she's ever learned about writing, because we've seen examples of her writing and other things that are nowhere near this egregious. It just comes down to clearly something has been turned off in her brain, or she had been lobotomized in some way, because she is not actually honoring anything that she has done. Her characters do not follow any sort of narrative through line that makes sense from point A to point B. Heck, even in the directing side of things, Soul, when he's in the flashback, has a worse English accent than he does in the present. And I
think they filmed that out of order, actually. I think they filmed those flashbacks first, and then he got better at doing the dialogue as it went on, because it was noticeably worse in those flashbacks.
It was, but the worst part too is that those two flashbacks are the only proper story structure of exposition, as bad as they are, that actually tell us what's going on, because everything around that doesn't tell us anything about what's going on. Now we get these two episodes of the same essential plot from two different perspectives that actually tell us, oh, this is what happened. And the payoff of this is actually the most boring thing ever compared to the alleged setup, which actually didn't tell us anything that was being set up at all.
Yeah, this was such a waste of an episode. Like, it didn't tell us anything new or I don't know, compelling in regards to anyone's motivations. And what we did see still didn't make sense. It still didn't make sense for all the witches to die the way they did. And you wouldn't have known that Indara had anything to do with that if it wasn't for the audio descriptions or her retroactive explanation confirming what had happened. But when you're watching it, I don't know how they all died. It looks, they used the thread too hard. I don't know.
So besides the fact that it was poorly written, poorly directed, acting, the whole deal, let's forget all that for a minute.
Sure.
Remember how cool Jedi used to be? How we all wanted to be Jedis when we were young? Like how we all wanted a lightsaber, right? We start an episode of a Star Wars show with them collecting stool samples. The Jedi have metal detectors like old men who are retired in Florida on the beach looking for what? Mud?
And they've got their grandkid with them who's pushing 20 and says, I want to go home. What type of Jedi with that many years of training and experience would want to go home?
Are these the Jedi we wanted to be when we were kids? Like,
well, this is what I'm saying. It's all a fundamental break. Everything is breaking fourth wall. It's not, it doesn't make any sense if you're narratively following it. It only makes sense if you're following Kathleen Kennedy and her distaste for her old boss and how she really wants to destroy the thing in some very specific ways. This is what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're an intelligent person at this point, you have to go, oh shit, this is being done on purpose, very, very specifically. Kind of like listen to like the Paul McCartney is dead theories, and all of a sudden Yellow Submarine and all the weird albums actually start to make sense. You need the conspiracy in order to make sense of the narrative.
Yeah, well, when you have Kathleen Kennedy that came out at the very beginning that says her focus is about ideology, it's about pushing women into in positions of power in Star Wars, you can tell that this is where all of this is coming from. It's coming from ideology. It's not coming from a point of entertainment, of creativity. Hey, I have a great character, been burning up in my heart and soul for years and years and years. I want to put this character on screen. It's like Scripps said. There's no rhyme or reason to anything that these characters are doing. And you don't understand, like, if Leslie Headland couldn't write, if she's really a really good writer, then how did she churn out this crap? The only thing that makes sense at this point is that she did it from an ideological standpoint. She had a message that she wanted to put out there, not a story, all right? Not characters that are going on a journey, not something interesting that audiences everywhere can dive into. She had an ideology. She had a message that she wanted to push. And that's the entire purpose of this entire show, to push a message, to push ideology, whether it's feminism, LGBTQ, or whatever the case may be, or that the Jedi are just all bad and institutions are bad and we need to rip down all these institutions because they're all bad. Whatever the case is, that is why this show turned out the way it turned out, because it didn't start from a spark of creativity of somebody trying to tell a story that was just a good story. just an interesting story about an interesting character. And I say it all the time. Character is king. If you can't get a good character written in your story, it's almost pointless to make the story. It's
Well,
almost
doomed to
people
begin
watch
with
characters.
because
They don't watch plots. They don't watch messages. And the worst part about this message that's being injected into Star Wars is that no one who's actually pushing the message can properly articulate exactly what it is. And that's why you have terrible stories and scripts.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, it's like, okay, what's the message that you're trying to get across here? We don't know. And again, I think when it
you know
comes
why?
just to
Because they don't want to be
creativity-
honest about what the message is. They know what the message is. They don't want to be honest about it because they don't have to admit that they are pushing an agenda.
Yeah, and it's hard to even speculate and theorize about what the finale will be. It's hard to even care at this point. But she literally it is not doing the show she said she wanted to do, which was an examination of the Sith and the master apprentice dynamic, and the apprentice having to recruit an acolyte to assume the master's power. We haven't seen any of that, so it's really hard for me to even think at this point what the finale will be, because all we've gotten at this point is just a scathing rebuke and diminishment of the Jedi and just this botched Padawan recruitment mission. And it's boring on so many levels. Like, it was an interesting premise, and I think if you were intelligent and knew how to write, you could do it extremely well, and it would have been very popular.
Well,
but you don't know how to do that.
The whole point of the Chimera character at this point for me is I think they literally just brought him in so they could have that one lagoon scene.
Yes.
That's the only reason they brought that character in.
Yeah, and
yes.
Alan really loves
Yes.
that.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. To Elaine's point, she's not wrong, because the premise, like, there'd be a great plot idea is if you have a Jedi and their Padawan following up on a Virgins in the Force, and they discover that there's a group of witches that is actually aware of this, prophecy of the Chosen One, and they're trying to manufacture it themselves as a threat or weapon to use against the Jedi, and they uncover it, they stop it at the sacrifice of their own lives, it never gets back to the Republic, and then you have something interesting. You now have introduced a Sith plot that is like, we are going to overthrow the Jedi by turning their very own prophecy to save them against them, and you have this was one attempt that failed that no one heard about, and then 100 years pass, and all of a sudden Anakin shows up, and then that gives you a little bit of extra context, because now it's like, we as fans can now have fun of, so Anakin was kind of created, but was he created by the Force or was he created by the Sith?
You're giving me cancer. This was already done in all of the expansion. This is what Plagueis' whole story was. It's already been done. That
Here's
is what
the thing, though.
The whole book was.
I've never read the books. I don't know. I've never watched Clone Wars.
Leslie says
I don't know. Hold on. I don't care. The movies are canon to me, and this stuff that you talk about, Plagueis, you talk about all these people. I have no idea who they are. The majority of the people who are watching this, the majority of people who are Star Wars fans, don't know anything about this guy, and to connect it to these characters and these EU books that no one's read or very few people have read.
This is what the Republic is.
It just shows that the direction of this is just wayward and going off in different directions, and has the cohesiveness of Star Wars is gone for good.
I just don't think it would matter even still, because I think Thrawn is probably a more famous character or more well-known in the expanded universe. And look how no one cared when they introduced him into live action, as far as general audiences went.
No one cared.
It was
but they
very
did him
poorly
so
executed.
poorly. He's not even Thrawn. He's such a bad character, even in Rebels is half Thrawn, and
Plagueis
Ahsoka's
is in the
even
movies.
worse.
Well, they
Right.
didn't
tells
introduce
Anakin
him
about
right
it.
I don't know
at
who
all.
Plagueis is. If he was in the
But
movie,
you've seen in episode 3. It's the scene in the opera. He
Well, he's
specifically
referenced in
mentions.
the
this.
movie.
Oh, there we go. I
Yeah.
know all about Plagueis now.
You do.
Well, they clearly
story
wanted
that
to
everybody
make
Proves me wrong.
It's not a story the Jedi would tell you, Alan.
Leslie
It-
has
it's
a picture
strange.
talking about
Do I sound any
Qui-Gon.
better?
Yes.
Do I sound
yeah.
better?
Yeah.
You sound better, yeah.
It's strange that it keeps making me think of upper management, because I see the story and like immediately I'm just like, oh, well, what stage of the Jedi in right now where this mother effer was able to slip through the cracks and be a Jedi? Like, who's in charge here? We need to go over to there. They're not using the Force as the selection process anymore. We got this guy here and he's a sad sack and he shouldn't have been selected in the first place. Like, it's so gives me just questions of like, what is this time and place where the Jedi are not, the Jedi were innocent and naive, and they allowed Palpatine and these unscrupulous people to take over the galaxy, but they weren't damaged in this kind of way where they could make this level of mistake. That like these were measured people who wouldn't make a mistake like this. It's such a perversion.
Or
of
or even if it was a
supposed
show,
to be.
even if it was a show about rogue Jedi, like one rogue Jedi, I'd be like, okay, he's a rogue, and that's why he's doing what he's doing. But to make all 4 of them like
Can't
complicit,
just be a good writer. You have to also
They're all
understand
bad in their
lore.
own way.
Well, because
you
they're
have
not
Indara,
going at
who's
it. They're not
elitist
going
and-
at it through a battle of wits. They're going at it through a battle of incompetence, and that's the problem. Like a battle of wits is better because the Jedi are like, we're doing everything right, and we think everything is good, and then the Sith are like, well, I see what you're doing, and I'm working in this way, and if I screw up, you can find out. So it's basically you got that tension thing. You've got that classic from the '60s Mission Impossible moment where the whole team is trying to pull off a scheme with no one else around knowing what they're doing, and it's a battle of wits because they'll do something that they don't expect, so then they have to counter, and it's a back and forth. But we don't have that level of writing. We have this level of writing that I've seen with Leslie Headland, I've seen it with Carolyn Drace, where they're like, okay, we just have to make the bad guy slightly more competent than the good guy. So to do that, we just have to make the good guy do things that are out of character of what a good guy would do in order to make the bad guy more threatening, as opposed to let's just elevate both of them and actually push our creative boundaries to see what we can do to actually really engage the audience and show that both characters that we're following, both sides of this coin, are very, very dangerous. And we don't get any of that.
Yeah, Steve Ditko had a character named Mr. A, and it was all just sort of like about like pulling out the most extreme sort of examples of like the thing from the left and right. And this thing serves the complete opposite, where like everything becomes like a brown, like nothing is kind of said because like they're trying to say everything with every I really don't understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah,
And I feel like with like so many Hollywood things, they're trying to subvert my expectations. And like, that's the thing. We must subvert their expectations, even if the actual like a good ending would be satisfying, even if it was predictable,
Let me
So
give you the prime example of that. I mean, Osha is the main character of the show.
is she?
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Go with me here.
Let's go
Osha
with that.
is
Let's go
the
with
main character of the show. What is her want? We're at the penultimate episode.
Yes.
We should know what she wants to accomplish in this next episode.
She just
What
wants
is
to be
that?
wanted.
Bingo. It's simple. What does your protagonist want? What is their desire? And the audience identifies with the protagonist. It's maybe split between May and Osha, but I don't
But it's
even know what
murky. They both don't
But
want
is
it.
it Soul? Like
I
I
don't know
feel like
what
at some
May
point in
wants
time,
anymore.
the character we're following is Soul. I feel like that sometimes he's really like the central character. Maybe he's not the main character, but he's
I
the
know-
character that made things happen in this story. His actions are kind of what's driven all of the plot. Everything that he did in the past and the things that he's trying to do with covering up in the future seems like everything is driven through Saul, not necessarily May, even though May is the one that kicked it all off.
Well, then that's the
Well, it's
second
his
problem.
mistakes that drive the story.
I
Yeah.
I know what Master Soul wants. I feel a connection. I feel a connection to Osha. I got a connection to Osha.
It's
I
a bit
would
creepy.
like to take the girl.
Is this President Biden, by
The
the way?
girl. I want
He's sniffing her hair.
He's like popcorn.
I feel a virgin.
a connection to this young girl.
You smell
I
so
feel a
good.
connection.
Yeah, they basically made him a pedo priest, right?
This is supposed to mimic
To
Qui-Gon.
move objects with your hands, to get lucky, so to speak. What is the Force? We talked about.
They basically make him a pedo priest and then make the other Jedi his accomplices, right?
I think he's
Right,
worse
yeah,
than
right,
he's
exactly.
We know
creepy.
what they want, but we never know why. We never know why anyone does
No,
anything.
No, we don't know what they want. That's the
We don't know
problem.
anything.
Like it started
Why
out as
does
a murder
why does
mystery,
Osha
right? It
want to
started
go
out
to
with
Jedi?
It started out as a murder mystery. That's what they called it. And the mystery was pretty much over in the first episode because we know who's trying to do it and we know what's all about. So at that point, where are we at with this murder mystery is now the mystery shifting focuses to what's Saul hiding? Who's the real, I guess, person behind Kamir? Like we're shifting focuses so many times. We don't have a constant, steady through line of something that we were wondering at the beginning. And now we're going to finally get the payoff. We're
No,
just
it's
all
very
over the place.
bipolar.
And this
It's very
speaks-
bipolar because May's entire motivation from the first 2 episodes is I'm going to get revenge for what they did to my family. Then all of a sudden she decides I don't want that anymore, and then traps Kamir in a sling or a snare, and then what happens after that? It's like we have nothing else.
She's
Now
going to
there's-
turn herself over to Kelnaka, and then she's not going to turn herself to. I mean, it's just, and then she's going to sneak
Jackie, yeah.
aboard Soul's ship and pretend to be Osha, and it's like, where is this? What is happening
Exactly.
here?
Well,
I have
Mace
no
says
idea
that-
what this is
And
about.
this happens instead of, and therefore this has to happen. No cause and effect anymore. So we're going to go here now. Now we're going to go here,
Right.
and we're going to go there. It's like there's no through line to this, and that all comes down to, as we said earlier, there is no direct goal for any of the characters. Even Kamir doesn't really have a goal other than maybe getting a new apprentice. But why a new one? You already have May. Why trade May for Osho?
May sucks.
There's nothing there that's going on. Well, they both suck, but there's nothing there going on. There's no incentive.
Osho
There's
was
no
at
clue,
least
there's no drama.
loyal.
And
That
I
was
think
the
this
point.
speaks to why my biggest problem with this is because it's not what Star Wars is, which is about the classic tale of good versus evil. And she wants to do this. She said so in the interview, this spectrum of morality, but she doesn't have any conviction in her with any of the characters of who they are. None of the characters are well established in what they want and why they want it. So yes, it's this wishy-washy, gray trash heap of a show. There's no clear creative vision for this story, and it's just all over the place, and
Wait
it's
a
so
second.
boring.
One of them clearly wants Smilo Ren's package. I think
That's true.
Yeah,
That is
that
very
is
true.
established.
His shaft, you mean?
I mean, how many times you gonna look down?
Well, it's more his chapstick than his shaft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So does everybody die at the end of 8? Is that where we're at? Is everybody dead?
Well, here's the question I have.
Yadi Moody
the end
doesn't,
of
so.
6, at the end of 6, May is strapped down to the gurney there, and then Saul says, "I have something I need to tell you after all this time." After watching episode 7, what did he need to tell her that she hadn't?
flashback.
already
she was
Yeah,
there
was the one
with
that
Soul
witnessed
all that
murder of the
time.
mom.
That all the witches died when Master Indara separated
there.
Kalnaka from
She
their
was the one that
soul.
was
there.
there.
That's the
May
thing,
was
it's not
there
really-
She
when
didn't
Soul
see
killed
that
his mother,
happen.
her mother.
And that was the thing he had to tell her, because
The only thing that it could possibly be is that he made the choice to let her fall.
That
Like it
too,
wasn't
as
just the
well, yeah.
bridge dropped. He dropped her. So maybe that.
Even
But, I
though
mean,
he could
you
have
didn't-
literally, he could have force lifted both of them,
Yes.
pulled them to him, right?
This
Yes,
is why you need
yes.
to understand lore and force powers. You can't just be a good writer, because
Well,
otherwise,
no,
when
the-
she said
the
they have
need
metal
to-
detectors, they would have said Jedi would have used the force to feel where divergence is, not metal detectors. But
No, the
Oh,
fact
can
that
I
we're
just say
confused
that? Like
about
the
the
good
story
writer. Oh,
element,
sorry.
the
No, you go,
fact
Alan.
that we're confused about this story element tells you something about the storytelling.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that idea about like the good writer, like I see this on so many major shows. It's just sort of blanket good writing applied to every situation the exact same way. And the type of plots and the way the characters interact, it's always just the same exact thing. And most of the drama comes from the characters interacting with one another and not really very plot driven. And, you know, there's not usually as much that they have to get through so much as they have to get through each other. And it just ends up being this like kind of dramatic bullshitization of the stuff that I like, written by people who are writing stuff that's more mainstream and, you know, more typical. You know, they can go write Riverdale and it'll be fun. But if they apply it to all of the more, you know, traditional geek culture, more masculine properties, I don't think it works at all.
Well,
you know what?
it's because it's
As
the
bad
monster,
shit
yeah.
though, as bad shit as Riverdale was, still a better show than the Acolyte.
Yeah, no, it isn't, but it's more appropriate there, I think. You know, like that style, I feel like has been just painted on everything. And I'm like, well, there's a place for that, and it feels kind of fun in its own way, but it's more like, you know, it's more
Well,
like a soap opera.
Yeah.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It's 100% a soap opera. Taylor Sheridan does it with his shows as well, excluding to a degree. Tulsa King is a bit more downplayed, but like to the point, to Badger's point, yeah, if someone knew the lore of the Force, they'd actually not use the metal detectors or whatnot. But a good writer, a one that's actually paying attention to the story, would be like, oh wait, if they can use the Force to hold up a bridge, they should be able to use the Force to hold up an individual,
Oh,
right?
man,
Yes.
yeah.
So why would I put them in a situation where they're holding up a bridge when I just hold up the individuals? And how do I make, if I want to make one of them, you know, not survive, do I do it with a bridge or do I do it something else, some sort of third party thing that maybe is something that he cannot account for? That's where you get into the creativity,
dead.
the creative sphere of things, where it's like, okay, I need one of these characters to be separated from the other. How do I go about doing that? And you explore all the ways and you workshop it to make sure, okay, this doesn't contradict what we've already established so far in the episode. This doesn't contradict to the stuff that I understand it forced to be, or understand the limitations of the character to be. And that's how you get the inventive
don't
and
understand
exciting
it.
aspects of that. You don't necessarily need the encyclopedia of the Orr. You just need to understand the logic of, okay, this is what the limitation is. Great. Now I get to explore it to its full potential.
Yeah.
Instead of
And
the
it helps the
contrivance of,
audience.
I'm going to hold up a bridge.
I mean, this wasn't a show about the Sith. This is the show about making Jedi look bad.
This was her.
That's what this is.
Yes,
Her
exactly.
psychology
On the
yeah,
Jedi,
this is her
yes.
psychiatrist session that she got 180 million. I'm just saying, I wouldn't. This whole thing, if you were to say, I want you to now define the Force and what magic is and the intricacies and how one affects the other and all that, bro. If you gave me Star Wars theory and RK Outpost and Nerd Cookies and every Thor Skywalker, every Star Wars expert, even then, I'd be hard pressed to say that we could come up with shit that would make sense and not contradict it. That's why it's best if you just keep everything the Force and metaphysical and just using it a different way. They have thrown concepts in here that throw everything on their head.
Oh
And
yeah,
they
they're diluting their
know.
concept big time. They're
Mhm.
making it very like they keep forgetting that the amount of people who like actually read, like say you get into comics, novels, whatever, it's like these print runs of comics, 20% are being read. You know, most of them end up on the stand and whatnot. The amount of people who are fans who are reading these books and getting into the EU and taste making what is good and what we would like to see, it's very small. And when you really start doing this thing where you're throwing away all the continuity and all the things that matter, you like DC Comics hasn't been able to relaunch their thing into success because they threw away like the Crisis on Infinite Earths moments. Supergirl's back, Barry Allen's back, none of it matters anymore. And people just kind of lose track with what the thing is. And then once they've lost track and they don't really care anymore to buy toys and pretend to make stories in that world because they don't even remember how to do that anymore, your brand is dead. And I mean, just look at the toy sales, the merchandise. I mean, this thing has been dead for a while now. This is just the final cries. And I
So
mean,
has the
boy,
High
are they
Republic.
doing some work on
real
this
quick,
thing.
based on.
we've got about 2,400 people watching live. Please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. And this is your last chance to get a Funeral for Franchise t-shirts. Discount code Star Wars is Dead. Go to shop.filmthreat.com. So, okay. Prediction of cameos for final episode. We know it's going to happen.
Well,
Yoda? Keanu Monday? Is he coming back?
Yaddle.
yeah, I think before I do
Nice.
that, I just want to go back to the top we were just on. So look, man, the thing I've always hated, to be honest with you, about Star Wars, and I'm talking even George Lucas's Star Wars, was the introduction of metachlorians, right? I just feel like it's dumb. I love when the Force was just this mysterious thing, right? It was like a thing of faith, right? And those who were in tune to that faith became Jedis, right? I miss when Star Wars was just about that. Then you bring in the metachlorians, and it's like, oh, it convolutes it. It makes the Force seem more scientific than I don't want to say magic, but just mystical, right?
Yeah, or spiritual.
It's a spiritual. There you go. So for me, it's like I've always hated that concept, right? So now you have the Acolyte, which dumbs down the Force even more.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we just go back to the Force being this mysterious thing?
Yeah, well, the ambiguity gives it more intrigue, and that's the best part about it. It also gives it more discipline too, because
But it's
one of the
gotta
things
be
that made
pure.
the Force so amazing is that before they introduced the metachlorians, before they introduced the destiny aspect of it, what they really had is a story where the dark side is so powerful that even an average Jedi, if they fell to it, could actually gain so much power and weaponize in such a way that they could literally cause the near extinction of the Jedi and overthrow the galaxy. That shows you how dangerous the dark side is. And one of the most, even though Return of the Jedi has a lot of flaws to it, one of the most impactful things was the fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi regretted the fact that he made a mistake thinking he could train Anakin as well as Yoda, and that all of this is he feels is kind of his fault, and he's trying to find his own redemption through Luke by correcting the mistakes that he made with Anakin with Luke. And like, that's a really compassionate and great redemption story. The moment you start throwing in destiny, the moment you start throwing in metachlorians, the moment you start throwing in all these other attributes that don't really feel in sync with the original trilogy, although I will give credit to George Lucas, he did his best trying to make it all work together with these new ideas. It just creates fertile ground for what we've actually seen right now.
I miss Luke Skywalker, the Luke Skywalker arc, which I think is very unique in how they portray the heroism of him. And he basically won the day, not through any act of violence. It was actually through peace. He's like, no, I'm not going to strike out of anger and hatred and fear. You've lost, Your Highness. And it was such a powerful moment. And yeah, well, I have issues with Return of the Jedi too. That is like one of the most iconic heroic acts I've ever seen in an IP like this, or in a fantasy
That's the
story.
reason.
I miss
That's the
that.
reason why Luke endures. That's why Luke has
Yeah.
stood the test of time, because his story is amazing. That's why I keep saying it comes down to the character. If you have a good character, I will follow that character through anything that character is going through, because I want to see this character's journey. I want to see him go on this journey. There's a reason I always say this. There's a reason why Captain Jack Sparrow works, even though the movies themselves are not that great, but people will still show up for a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Why? Because they like Captain Jack Sparrow's character. They will follow Johnny Depp and Captain Jack Sparrow through anything that guy goes through, regardless of how silly and stupid the movie is. And none of the movies outside the first one have been any good, but it's the character. And so these guys can't seem to understand how to write a character that is compelling, that'll keep people turning the pages or showing up for the next episode. I don't care about any of the characters in The Acolyte. That's the biggest problem. I don't care what happens.
Because we don't know who they are.
If they live, they die. They could all die in the last episode. I'm not going to shed a tear. I'm not going to feel any pain or remorse or anything. I'm just waiting to see what happens. That's it.
But it's also the messaging too. Like I say, Luke's is one of the best arcs ever in the history of heroic storytelling. But also in this, we have like the worst depiction of so-called heroes I've ever seen, and in particular with how they depicted Torben's story. Like, this is the reason why he holed himself away for 10 years. He did nothing wrong.
And then committed suicide.
He went off
on
half
top
cocked,
of
but it was the adults in the room that ultimately decided the fates of everyone there. And the fact that he hid himself away for 10 years, just carrying the weight of this secret, and it's just entirely un-Jedi like. And that before he ultimately decided, am I going to talk to someone? Am I going to let the Jedi Council know what happened? Or am I going to self-delete, to just take the easy way out? I can't believe they did this in a show directed towards young people.
How did he become a Jedi Master after this incident?
That's
right.
And just to reiterate, the Force is life. And I just cannot see a Jedi choosing to not live. Like, even before that, he wasn't living. He was just in isolation for 10 years. It is so antithetical and such a disturbing message for young people who are seeing increasing rates of depression. It's inexcusable for what they decided to depict in this.
Right. You make a mistake when you're young, and then you got to suffer for the rest of your life.
Yeah. There's a book called A Hero with a Thousand Faces, and George Lucas has read it, I'm sure, cover to cover 1,000 times. And there is not a single person in that writing room who has read that book. And, they're dealing with archetypes, and, what can sometimes seem as like one note makes a character. It's one note, and then you play that chord really hard, and this aspect of their character, you use it to figure out what else that says about them and how they would react in all other ways because of this one note. But a bad writer thinks that a whole bunch of dissonant single notes can make a character, but that doesn't make a character. It just confuses people about what they're looking at. What people are looking for is, this guy's klepto. He always steals things. Why does he always steal things? Because he was growing up in a bad neighborhood, because he was raised in this by a single freaking mother who didn't have enough money, and she taught him how to steal because they needed money to eat. And there's the fucking story. It comes out of this one note actually being played, harmonically. And then there you go. You've got a character enriched. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about archetypes, like, a Superman or whatever. At the end of the day, he is the archetype for the greatest good. And a good writer will always try to utilize him to tell a story that features the greatest good, not a story like Man of Steel. I hate to hate on it. It's a beautiful movie. But, when you go, oh, there's no other choice, but I got to break this guy's neck. No, there's always a better way. That's the Superman archetype. And to be really satisfying that and hitting that, playing that note, is to always find a better way as a writer. And with the Jedi, that is a similar thing. An insidious thing got from beneath them and destroyed them from the inside. Yes, but they shouldn't be susceptible to this type of darkness that overcomes, their whole situation. I mean, down to the guy being obsessed with the girl, which again, it's creepy. It's very much like a let me go smell her hair kind of thing. It's all weird, and I think it's very much on purpose.
Leslie said she did that because it's supposed to be like Qui-Gon feeling a connection to Anakin.
Oh,
Yeah, she really did not register how that worked because
At
again,
Wait,
one of
wait,
the
a
best
real-
aspects with heroes and aspirational heroes, especially ones like Luke Skywalker, is that you want to establish their moral compass and then you want to have the outside world challenge them so that they persevere based on that moral compass. What's the most beautiful aspect of Return of the Jedi is that when we first see Luke Skywalker, he is wearing all black. That is a traditional director note or director subtlety to say that he is literally teetering on the dark side, because what's the first force power we see him use? He force chokes those guards when they're coming after him. He is on the edge right there, and he is basically still in rebel mode right now, where I think this is what I have to do in order to save my friends, and the ends kind of justify the means. And we're watching him on that path where he feels like, where we are basically started making the connection, oh, this might be similar to how Anakin kind of fell. And what ends up happening is Luke does lose his crap in the throne room there with the Emperor and whatnot. And once he actually like succumbs to that and chops off his father's hand and then recognizes that with his own hand, is that he has now sacrificed a part of himself based on following the same path that his father did. And he's now remembering everything that he learned from Yoda, everything they learned from Obi-Wan, everything that he had to kind of reconcile with after that fight on Bespin. And he's just like, you know what? This is not what the Jedi is. This is what Palpatine is doing to manipulate me. This is what my father is kind of doing to manipulate me too, whether he's fully aware of it or not. I'm going to do the one thing, which is that I'm going to die on my feet, not being corrupted into the dark side, because that's how they lose. And then what happens after that? He gets shot by the lightning, and then a little slip of his shirt opens up, and he's got a little bit more of a white color, which I think has been recolor coded to gray now. But it's a white color showing that the light inside of him is persevering over the darkness that surrounded him. That is the visual representation of what Luke is and what he's going through. And we see that purity right at the end. Because he doesn't put that flap back up and adjust the uniform at the end. He lets it open, and he
also
he's got smiles, and he's saluting to his father and Yoda and Obi-Wan before the end of the film, and that's showing his arc. And that's where you get the whole idea of this is what Luke Skywalker is, a man who may not be the best at everything, but he's powerful in the Force, but he perseveres because he doesn't give up even when he loses.
The thing I'm not understanding though for me is, we literally have one episode left, just one, right? Last week's episode could have been the third episode.
Yeah.
Right? It did not push the story forward by any means, right? In fact, all it did was paint them into a corner now, because now they have 40 minutes at most to wrap this up. Like I'm trying to understand the level of thing. Remember, guys, this didn't just happen. This went from script to approval, to writer's room, to filming.
That's what I'm saying. It's on purpose, man. There's too many levels
there are
of
steps
this.
to this.
This is on purpose.
And no one thought, oh yeah, this doesn't make sense.
It's intentionally
Right.
awful.
No, here's my
This makes
confusion.
perfect
Yeah.
sense. It's not on purpose. They think my shit is good.
But Leslie Headland worked for a man who's prolific in telling great stories. He knew writers. He built an arsenal of.
Well, apparently she learned nothing from him.
But the question was, what lessons did she learn from him? Because it wasn't about storytelling.
Her boss now is a
wait a
woman
second.
named Kathleen Kennedy, who has absolutely destroyed the entire franchise. It's as simple as it gets.
Oh, wait a
guys.
second.
It's
She's
Kathleen
being
Kennedy.
paid well for it. The DEI initiative lined up perfectly with her revenge vendetta against George Lucas. She was like, "You want me to make this property more inclusive? You got it, dude."
Okay. I get that DEI sucks. I get it. I get it. ESG score, BlackRock, the whole. I get all that sucks, right? As a writer, though, is there not a part of you that doesn't say I'm better than this?
Yeah.
Always.
I'm better than this. Like,
Well, let's understand, she represents
laughing
the
to the
lesbian writing community.
Even down to sorry.
Yeah, she represents the lesbian writing community, and I would like to.
so are they all bad writers? Are all lesbians bad writers?
Yes,
No,
I'd like
but
to think
unfortunately
the
she's not
lesbian
helping.
writers are outraged that she got this job and not them, because they could have done a better job.
I mean, the intelligence on display could definitely be seen in regards to the twin actresses, the child actresses, and the reason why they were cast specifically. In that recent, I think the Mary Sue interview said that they had auditioned identical twins, sets of identical twins for the children, but they went with the fraternal twins because they look too much alike. The previous ones look too much alike. But you even have it in your story where they are literally one consciousness in two bodies, and that they are identical down to the what molecular symbiont level, but you have them not look alike. It's so nonsensical and so stupid. It's beyond. My brain cells are dying just thinking about it.
It's very confused.
So okay, I'm trying to look past the Acolyte here, right? You're a writer, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're a writer in Hollywood. Do you put this on your credits?
No.
Do you put this on your IMDb credits that you worked on this show?
No, but
Well-
you'd probably go to legal to try and get your name removed from it.
Okay, so people in the chat, couple things. We've got 2,600 people watching live. Like, subscribe if you're not. We will read the super chats at the end of the show, I promise. But we're highlighting some chats. There are leaks that are out, and they are saying the leaks will piss off everyone even more. Alan, if you could find those leaks, someone track it down.
Wait, are we doing spoilers here?
Well,
You don't know. Ruin it for
Does
you.
anyone care?
we will warn you if we find spoilers. We will warn you in advance. Apparently, they're out there. If you Alan or Atomic Glory find the leaks, and we'll announce it before we do it. I have a special treat before we move on. A quick break here with a special treat. I was sent this video. We're not going to watch all of it, but this is a little tease of things that we'll be doing like at the funeral on Wednesday. So here we go. It's you'll figure it out what it is once it starts. So let me just share this. It might make you smile.
Robot head killed that.
Bravo.
Alan, you were great.
Bravo.
Bravo. Yeah.
Bravis.
I love how they stretched it for the extra syllable. Anakin blew up the Death Star. That's good.
It worked. It
It
worked.
worked.
Yeah. So back to our conversation here, though. Did you find the leaks, Alan?
No, all I'm finding is people talking about it. I'm not finding the actual leak.
All right. Anyone in the chat would like to? Oh wait, Lori found it. Here we go. I will share screen, and Badger, maybe you can read some of this.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was looking at it
Well, I
earlier
found
while that
one.
was
There
going
you go.
on.
There it is.
Wait, is
It
that
didn't
it?
exactly look like spoilers. The thing in the private chat.
That's not it,
That's not
Alan.
the
I
leak.
found it.
That's not the
Comic
leak.
Glory found it. Okay. Okay. Warning. There are leaks, and we're gonna go through them. So let's see here. Let me. This is terrible. Look at all this crap. All right. Okay.
This is like a reframing.
Right. Let's get right to the leaks.
You have to go up and hit
Roll
continue
back up.
reading.
Go back up. You
What
gotta
the hell?
hit the continue
there, that
reading.
blue button
Scroll
that says-
down that blue button. There, go right there. Continue reading.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Go for it, Badger.
Yeah, so I said I think this just tells us what we already knew, but Osha and May learning the truth. Fans can expect Osha and May to learn the truth about, this is what Leslie said in the Nerdist, that, yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out the truth about Sol and the other Jedi on Brindok in the final. Now that May will learn that Saul let her willingly die in order to save Osha, it will likely turn her further against the Jedi, given that she is currently chained. These I don't think these are spoilers.
Wait.
It says you can expect spoilers.
On Soul Ship? She said
That's
on
why
This
these
is
Soul
like
Ship?
speculation. These aren't the leaks.
These aren't the
Yeah,
leaks. Yeah.
These
No,
aren't
this
the
is
leaks.
from
Okay, if
a while ago.
anyone has links to the leaks, please post in the comments.
So
would
Headland did
help.
say that in the Nerdist interview that there was something to the fact that Kamir knew who Osha was and that Soul didn't know that May was with him instead of Osha.
Well,
That was
she also,
significant.
just because she also said, and that we're missing the forest for the trees, and that basically she intimated that the actual Sith have been watching this whole thing, and this is where they get the idea for the Plagueis book that no one read that a lot of people read, no one here read, to do what they did. And she even calls and she refers to the twins as like a proto Anakin, completely misunderstanding that Plagueis didn't actually make Anakin, that was just a lie he told Anakin. They tried, and their trying is what made the Force make Anakin as an answer to their manipulation of it.
Can we all just agree that it's difficult enough when the actual creator and writer of a property goes back in time and retroactively inserts a whole bunch of things that hadn't previously been thought of when the original thing was created, that's dangerous, let alone these retards.
This, by the way, is the on purpose part.
Why can't they just done their own contained Sith story? Like you have
she
literally
wants to do what
thousands
he
and
just
thousands
said.
of years of room to tell your story, but you had to choose this specific point in time and so close to the prequel era to where Ki-Adi Mundi that you changed is now here and seeing events and will definitely bring up all of these events because they are relevant to the council meeting with Qui-Gon. So no.
because the Jedi are all corrupt and incompetent, and some of them are even pedos. Apparently,
I know we hate the show, but Jesus Christ, the Jedi have always taken kids. It's always been a thing. They get
okay,
Jedi.
no,
yeah, I know.
No. Okay, Badger, I'll go with you on that. But here's the thing: the way Qui-Gon went about Anakin.
Oh, it's definitely different.
Night and day different.
And the way he explained it was different. He could have said,
Saul
I feel a
heavy
connection through the
breathing
Force.
every time he mentions Osha's name, dude. I'm sorry. That was some weird cliche.
It was much more organic.
The actor being a bit too intense, I think. Yeah, and it's
the guy looked like he was busting a load every time he said her name, dude. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I'm just saying.
I understand. I'm just saying Qui-Gon found the chosen one. That's why he felt that
and
connection.
Dara was like giving him a hard time.
Lecherously.
So the background for his motivation of even wanting a Padawan was just Indara saying, "Oh, this is why I have a Padawan and you don't," which was just her withholding crucial information from her Padawan, which wasn't anything about teaching a lesson.
Wait.
Why wouldn't you tell your Padawan why you're on this planet for 2 months?
Right.
Found it. This was from the final scene of episode 8 of The Acolyte. If we could look at this really quick. There's, wait, let me refresh here.
Jesus.
Those lightsaber battles
on the left.
Gnarly. They're so realistic.
Where is this?
There
it is. That's your final scene from Acolyte. I don't know what it all means.
Remember, she has to kill him without using weapons. That's the scene.
This is it. This is that.
Yeah.
Oh my
It'll
God.
still be more entertaining.
This is awful.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. We're messing
Yeah.
around. All right.
But Bums fighting for a sandwich is more entertaining than the Acolyte.
So leaks aside, because honestly, what could it possibly, of all of our guesses? The only thing I know we're going to find out, unless she was lying, and she probably was, is exactly how those twins were made. That's what she says tuned into the last episode for. If it was the Force and whatever, they're lying.
Well, I think you're going to see a massive twin battle that will rival both Parent Trap movies.
I don't know. It's really hard to care at this point because, I mean, does anyone care about these characters? I feel like even people like the show for just the few
No one was going to care to begin
just
with.
Like Kamir. And
it's a High Republic. Everyone keeps saying it's the movies. Bro, this is the expanded universe, the High Republic, the thing that no one read. And that's what this show is based on. That's where the characters are from. That's where everything they're talking about is from, is the expanded universe. And the failed expanded universe, not even the popular one.
And they didn't even connect it well because, first of all, in the title card, it doesn't even say that we're in the High Republic era.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the way they look, the Jedi, their robes don't look like art that I've seen the High Republic Jedi wear. So why wouldn't you connect it like visually in that way? And just every opportunity they could, and even Vernestra doesn't look like her character. Why did you make her bald in this? She has hair in the art that I've seen her.
Because they want to appeal to the
She's
lesbians.
older too, and
Sinead O'Connor fans. That's the issue.
Do we still think that maybe it could be?
I think the
Vernestra?
costumes look very accurate to the High Republic, actually, because I've seen a lot of them, and they're god awful and atrocious, and that's why they're accurate.
They look more like knight-like, like
gold inlay.
They have like hilts,
symbol and
sword hilts, actual sword hilts for the lightsabers, and little like elements like that.
87 as opposed to the 500 or whatever it was that they literally went to the tail end of the High Republic instead of like the middle of it, which would have arguably been the most freedom.
I'm still holding to the fact that it's Darth Pickle. head
You're probably right.
Vernestra's.
You're probably right.
And
Based on
they
what
said
she
they don't know each other.
Yeah.
Kamir would
You're
know
probably right.
Coral.
Did anybody watch The Good Place? Because this guy's from
Yes.
The Good Place, and
Yep.
like I just found it so freaking distracting because his character on The Good Place is an idiot, just like as like idiotic type personality as possible, and then he's playing this bad guy who's kind of like Cat that ate the canary, and it just feels a little bit too close to his Good Place character. And I just kept seeing this.
Actually,
goofball.
no,
I'm like,
I'm gonna disagree with that, man. I think he shows some range, man. Because in The Good Place, you're right, he was a moron, right?
Yeah,
he played an idiot. But in this, look, as bad as the writing is,
maybe it's just because
he doesn't come across as an idiot in the show.
Yeah, I just think there is, after this, this is why we're doing the funeral on Wednesday, the day after, because after that, no one is going to care. No one will talk about it. And those toys that are on the shelf will have orange stickers on them very quickly.
Oh, you mean the ones that are $25 right now for an OSHA action figure?
It's amazing how I always think it can't get any worse than this after the Obi-Wan series with the Leia chase scene in the woods where 9-year-old Leia is outrunning like full-grown men.
It's the trench coat.
And then the trench coat.
Yeah.
Oh, where she's running away from the chili peppers?
Or the Book of Boba Fett, the slowest like moped chase ever. And then the Jack and Lizzo episode. I keep thinking there can't possibly be a way of it to get worse, and yet they keep breaking new ground.
Oh, I mean, having read thousands of scripts, especially some from amateurs and first-time writers, it can always get worse, man. It can always get worse.
I do wonder if Coral is going to be an ancestor of Darth Maul.
She said, well, knowing her species, so insinuating it's going to go to Dathomir.
Yeah. She has to be involved in some way. She said she's alive. She basically didn't confirm, obviously. She said no body, no death.
Into black smoke, and she apparated away, yeah.
And if she's not connected to Kamir, that's the only way I can see that working out.
You think she's lying to us? That she's just straight up lying that they don't know each other? Chimera.
I wouldn't take her at her word, even if she did, because she's just a used car salesman.
Yes.
Speech at this point. So
yeah,
I have a question for Script. Actually, Script. Cool. So, any of these writers on this show, do they work again outside of this in other studios?
Well, that's the kind of the weirdest part, is that if you get a credit at a studio like Disney, you can actually start working on the independent sphere a lot easier than you can in the studio system, especially from a bomb. You can kind of work your way up. Chris McQuarrie is a great example of that. He kind of screwed up early on in his career after Usual Suspects and, of course, doing Valkyrie and whatnot. And he was kind of in director's jail for a while, but he did some independent stuff and he kept on at it and he worked up, and now he's doing Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise and whatnot. And there's always a way back, because if you manage to get those credits, you've shown that you're at least better than a lot of the people that do submit in there. And you know what the sad truth is that unfortunately, even with the Acolyte, Leslie Hedlund is still better than the majority of other writers that are submitting, trying to break into this industry. I'm sorry to say. There's definitely others that will come in and easily surpass her, but the vast majority will not. That gives her a little bit of credence. Not only that, she's been around for a while. She's made a lot of connections. Other people will give her second chances and whatnot.
Well, she also knows where the bodies are buried, probably too.
There's some of that, absolutely. And then, you know what? I don't believe that Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Hedlund would be enemies after the end of this show at all. I don't buy that. I think they'd probably work together in something else in the future, not necessarily Disney or Star Wars related, but at least a recommendation or something down the road. Because again, you fail laterally until you do something right that gets you to the next level.
Yeah, Adder Moth in the chat said good writing has nothing to do with getting a job in Hollywood, and just like scream that from the hilltops. You know, I used to say there's sort of like a collection of attributes that a person needs in order to succeed in the business as a writer. And a lot of the best, most talented people never do, because they just don't have some of the social bits that are required to kind of push your way into the business and push your way into a meeting and convince some people to get behind you, you know, that you are bold enough and can sell yourself just enough to do the thing. And it's really terrible, because there's no good shepherds in place to find all those great writers who aren't good enough to sell themselves. And I mean, just basically every decent writer you get ends up being a little bit, a little bit egoic and having to boister themselves, because that's the gig. The gig is get yourself in front of the people, convince them that you're the person for the job. You've got some take, you've got the brain for it, whatever else. And that's why mostly so many really kind of crazy egos rise to the top.
No, it's not only that, but also hitting a deadline. Because when you're a screenwriter and you're going into pitch, you're there to solve a problem for them. But so many screenwriters, especially the really good ones, don't realize that. They're there because they're excited and hoping, wanting to make it to write their story. That is not your purpose as a screenwriter. Your purpose as a screenwriter is the studio has a problem. They need something to make. You come in with the solution. If you don't present yourself as someone that's coming in with a solution, they don't care about you. They just see you as a needy, nipping at the heels of other people, trying to get your 15 minutes of fame. And then you're not going to actually make them any money, because you look at the studio as you need them more than they need you. And that's the truth. The studio does need the writer more than they need them.
But look,
there are more real quick, Dante. There are more people in the industry better at the hustle than they are at the writing.
Yes.
I mean, Leslie Headland, I got to give her credit. I've watched her in interviews. I've heard she's really good at the hustle. She learned something from Harvey, but good at the writing. She is a fraud. She's a fraud on the level of J.J. Abrams. Sorry, Dante, right back to you.
No, I was going to say, yeah, I get that on the higher level, right? But I'm talking about if you're just a regular writer in the writer's room, where does your career go after something like this?
You know what's funny? You kind of get, you use it as your calling card, unfortunately, to another television show, usually one of lesser prestige, lesser budget, but that's where you have a chance to shine, because what staff writers usually have to do is they have to acquiesce to the showrunner. So if you have a bad showrunner, everybody knows, okay, you're on this show, it sucked, you're a staff writer. What were some of the ideas that you pitched during the show that the showrunner knocked out that maybe you think were still good? And that's how you kind of work your hustle on that way. There are lots of writers who, they worked on bad shows and then all of a sudden they do great stuff. Like take a look at oh God, I'm She-Hulk on his name, but he wrote Hannibal, and I'm blanking on his name for some strange reason, and it's really bothering me right now. But Fuller, Brian Fuller, look at him. He worked on Voyager, which is not really the best Star Trek show, but it was pretty good, and he had to acquiesce and work within those confines. But then he wrote Hannibal, which was brilliant and fantastic, and that's when he got to be on his own. And then that's something that you have to kind of remember, is that sometimes there's staff writers there. One of the things that makes you successful is being a really good team player. Like, you're able to push back on some bad ideas or argue your points. That's great. But if you can actually do the job and push your ego aside to do the job, that goes a long way. And if you can navigate that and balance that and work your way up, you can be like, a Peter Gould, who he's worked on some other stuff that's not great, but he did Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and people love those shows. Same with the guys that worked on Sopranos. They've all worked on some duds here and there, but they did pay their dues doing so. They learned the room. They learned to navigate. And at the same time, when they got into another room that they were able to show off, especially to a showrunner that was competent and knew how to do their work, they go up. And that's kind of how it works out. And that's the weird meritocracy of the industry. It's not always fair, but when you do get that big piece of luck that you need, it will actually elevate you up. We do not know. In 10 years, one of the writers from The Acolyte might actually do a show that's not science fiction and not half hour and not a piece of crap, but absolutely great. And you'd be like, how the heck were they this good, but not that good on The Acolyte? It's because the person writing the ship probably wasn't working as well with them as they were with others.
Shout out to Anna, real quick. Shout out to Anna, that Star Wars girl, who is she is about to have a baby, which was also conceived, with the Force, from what I understand. Yeah, but she's giving you shit.
She stepped on the virgins and now she's pregnant. No.
Yeah, exactly. Good for her. I hope she comes to the funeral. That would be
should
great.
we talk about minutes watched for Star Wars here?
Wait. Elaine, you had something to say.
Well, I forgot what my point. I think I was going to say. Well, I think
it's about virgins, right?
Yeah, the virgins distracted me. But I do think it takes more intelligence to craft a show where you have 30 minutes in each episode. I think that's also very rare as far as live action. And I feel like there's a higher caliber of writing that you need to have if you just have 30 minutes each episode. And I think The Bear is a great example of that. If they just have 30 minutes, I haven't finished season 3, but the first 2 seasons, or I think season 1, it's purely like 30 minutes, but there is so much. It doesn't feel like it's 30 minutes. There's so much storytelling and so much drama and tension. It just feels like there's so much happening where it feels like it takes longer, actually. And I feel like it takes a higher caliber of writer to accomplish that. And I just don't think it was the right fit for this. And if you're going to do a live action episodic or a serialized story, you're just not up to snuff. And there are people that are actually showing this caliber, being able to write an intelligent mystery. And I don't know. I can't see a studio who seems to be like, studios nowadays seem like they're more discerning anyways, because of how with the writers and actors strike, in the wake of that, they have to be more discerning in how they're going to spend their money. So I'm hopeful that those who fail aren't rewarded for it, or their complete lack of intelligence and creativity isn't rewarded. But I don't know. Well,
you
we'll
have
see.
a show
With Disney, I don't know.
You have a show that's 8 episodes, right? 8 episodes. 2 of those episodes were complete flashback episodes, and the second flashback episode added nothing to the story that we didn't already know.
Yeah,
But
first of all, it should have.
Highest rated of the series so far. So.
It made us
it should have
understand
been
that
prefaced with
Saul was a
soul.
bit more creepier than we had originally surmised. But to your point, a quarter of this entire series was a flashback, because again, this is a 4-hour story told so poorly, with bad pacing, with no hook, with nothing engaging other than for, the general audience. Oh, what a cool lightsaber fight in the forest. That's not something that makes a show good.
And Book of Boba Fett was like that too. It was mostly flashbacks when people just wanted to see him be a gangster, be a
Not even
badass.
good flashbacks.
Why couldn't you?
Oh my
But
god!
it was just
They were
him
so
trying
good.
to
That's a
commune with
great
the
story
sand
to tell.
people.
Where was that? Yeah.
They're getting a movie and countless other shows, so they reward.
Can I just say,
failure.
they have been trying to go after this, like, the female audience, the Force is female thing. And, the receipt that I just keep showing everybody who's still arguing on their behalf is the numbers don't lie. They're going down, and more women are running away from these feminized properties.
Those
Just
women
look
hate
at all
women.
the numbers. For the
That's
Marvels.
clearly not true. These
They're
numbers.
watching
I mean,
Bridgerton.
Yeah,
Look,
it's
I can-
exactly.
Alan,
They're watching
show the
Bridgerton.
numbers.
Watch
Show the
Bridgerton.
numbers.
Let's
Give
look at
them.
the numbers here.
And when this
These are,
shit is made
all of
good
the
for
Star
us,
Wars
it's like,
shows. These are all the Star Wars shows, total minutes for the first 12 weeks. And you can see on the top here, we've got The Mandalorian. The second, that's the Book of Boba Fett. The third is Obi-Wan. Then you got Andor, Ahsoka, and then here's the Acolyte down at the bottom.
no way. Is that really the Acolyte?
Andor?
Zoom in, Alan.
No one's watching the show.
Holy shit.
Enhance.
Well,
These
Yes,
are-
give
these
us
are
the
the
leaks,
Wow.
chat. Give us the leaks.
The funeral is at the right time. It's
Yeah.
funny
Which
too
one- which
because
one
I
was
called it
Andor?
out on my podcast after freaking Obi-Wan after the Acolyte, not the Acolyte, after what is the one,
Ahsoka?
Ahsoka Tano's show?
Yeah.
After
Ahsoka.
her show, I said, this is it. It's done. The savior of Star Wars has not been able to do anything with a character that he already had time to ingratiate the audience to. They brought her back and she's stiff, and just like all the other female representation that they've got going on, that just like is like freaking not doing representation right for women. And
Wait.
and I was like, this is it. They're done. The Acolyte will be like nobody's gonna watch. And what is it? It's a third of the
No,
next
that
up?
is it looks to be about 25% of Mandalorian. Is
So
what
is it at the bottom?
Well,
Where's
no,
I
not
can't
even
read.
Very-
25% of it.
the very top is Mandalorian. The bottom is Acolyte.
And
Oh
right
my
above it is
goodness.
Ahsoka.
It's about a
And-
fifth. It's about 20% of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it.
That is
Yeah.
bad.
Because where was the hook? Every one of those others, even though they were horrible and got worse, had something that's in there that someone liked that was proven. In The Acolyte, it's the High Republic, which no one likes to begin with, done by Leslie Headland, who no one likes to begin with, and so on and so forth.
And it's also a pattern of mediocrity, because this is what set the stage for this show doing so badly. Was the third season of Mandalorian, which these are original characters, by the way. People liked an original character that Disney created.
Wow.
And when it was just
Original.
one single man making his way in the universe, a smaller story, like, get that right. And let's see if you can do Boba Fett. I don't know. And then they messed up Boba Fett, and then they messed up Obi-Wan, and then they messed up the Mandalorian. You had a good thing going, and you even messed that up. And people liked Moff Gideon too, and you messed his character up for some reason, so you could pave the way for Ahsoka's Thrawn, which you also messed up. It's just a pattern of horrible storytelling, which
Andor
I
was
think
truly
led the way
good.
for this. Yeah, but no one
Andor
watched it
was
apparently.
good. Just to defend that, because it really was really good. I liked Andor a lot, and it is in the midst of all these terrible things, and nobody really saw it. But
that's all Tony
I still
Gilroy, though.
recommend Andor if you've got Disney Plus.
But I
the-
do
the
think
problem
with
is
that,
this is not-
people who started watching it finished watching it, and you can't say the same thing for these
Oh
other shows.
yeah,
The
Alan,
problem is this is not a growing series. It is losing fan base, is not growing fan base. Unlike the originals, the original trilogy, even the prequels built an audience.
This is very
Yeah,
Rings of
and
Power.
unfortunately, with Andor, we know where it's going. It's Rogue One. There's nothing to build off of that,
Simpler,
and
yeah.
and that's the thing. When
It'll be
the
over.
OT ended, there was an explosion of expanded stories that were able to grow in multimedia projects. But when the sequel trilogy happened, no one really cared. Rey was already like all of the Jedi, and she was like the penultimate Jedi. She didn't need anything or need any more progression. So her story was basically ended. There was nothing to really dive into after that.
Yeah,
And
well,
ever
now she
since
needs to
then, it's
dive
just
into
been
Luke's story.
it's just
To
been
recreate the order.
systematic scavenging on what came before, just repurposing it for Clone Wars era characters and such.
And doing it in such a terrible way, because again, one thing that makes The Empire Strikes Back one of the better movies is that Luke fails every lesson Yoda tries to teach him, and then repeats those failures when he's fighting Darth Vader. But in the end, he gets back up, he's got his hand, he's got Leia, and he's like, guess what? We're going to go rescue our buddy Han. That's showing his arc and movement and learning. Where do we get any of those types of parallels with regards to character arc and learning in any of these subsequent shows? Even with The Mandalorian, when it started off fairly strong for at least the first 20 minutes of the episode, in my opinion, it had something there. It's a lone bounty hunter who's basically the only financial support for his entire clan. And it's all on his shoulders. So there's stakes there. And he's trying to learn and get better at this with his bigger job as it goes. With Obi-Wan and Ahsoka and with Andor, it's really just for them to have fun filling in the gaps. And I get the angle of like, we want to appeal to a female audience. We want to be able to close that gap and get as many customers as possible. But the irony is that you have a couple of existing franchise examples that did that and did that well. You have Resident Evil with Mila Jovovich, and then you also have Underworld. We know the vampire and werewolf stuff that was female led, and people liked those movies. Those franchises were sustainable for quite a bit. And yet you don't take any of the things that worked for those franchises and you don't properly apply them to yours.
Yeah,
You
it's
have the
taking
model and you
something
just
and
ignore
then
it.
twisting it. So they kind of, I did a video about this a while back, examining why the spinoffs for Battlestar Galactica failed. And one of them, when they did Caprica, they specifically went out to create a show that would appeal outside of their fan base, which was to women. And unfortunately, no one watched it because, well, you weren't trying to appeal to your massive fan base already. No one was going to watch it because the ones who weren't fans of it weren't going to be suddenly interested in it just because it was called Caprica. I don't know. So it
also had
this
Eric
is
Stoltz,
just same
and nobody watches
lesson.
anything with Eric Stoltz, especially in the early 2000s.
Yeah, they did issues with casting too. There wasn't characters that anyone really connected with.
I was a fan,
and those
I
are
didn't watch
hallmarks of
it 'cause
Battlestar.
it was a prequel, and why did I care when I knew how everything was going to end? And I wasn't happy with the exact end, so it was like, no,
if you
I'm good.
But it's the same lesson of if you have a huge existing fan base and then you go out to not appeal to create a show that would appeal to not those fans, not the fans that you already have, but the ones who aren't actually watching this IP or aren't interested in it. It's the downfall of that show and ultimately led to the subsequent show, Blood and Chrome. Yeah, Blood and Chrome not taking off.
You should be writing for your fan base, right? You should be writing for the people that are rocking with Star Wars. They're going to be here, and then you'll pick up some new people along the way because guess what? Not everybody's going to love Star Wars, but you're going to find those that do love Star Wars along the way. It's like, hey, I'm going to write this. It's just going to be Star Wars. Those that love it will love it. We'll pick up some new fans. We'll start adding to the existing fan base, and then everybody will be cool. But if all you're going to do is try to write towards some silly ideology, then guess what? You're going to lose the Star Wars fans, and you're not going to do what made Star Wars like. What is it that worked about Star Wars that made it popular to begin with? That's what you should be doing.
But that's what I'm saying. We're living in that world, though. Like that doesn't exist. Like it's really You just got to break the fourth wall and recognize what this is. They've taken over Doctor Who and Star Trek and Star Wars and every single thing they could get a hold of because we made a foothold in the culture, and they are using us to do what they want done. And we're all worse for it because the moment
meanwhile pushing us out, trying to push us out so that they can keep it for themselves, basically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And use it to indoctrinate, basically.
And it's very disingenuous to say that for Disney to claim that now they're trying to insert women into the stories and to appeal to women. Women have been a part of Star Wars from the beginning, in front and behind the scenes. It is just it's just an excuse that Kathleen Kennedy is currently using to dismantle the previous EU under George Lucas and just pirate and pillage those stories and make them their own, just repurpose it and twist it to their own thing and their own vision. But just, again, profiting off of other people's more intelligent and creative writing.
Which they're already doing. They're just doing really badly. Like, the Mandalorian's backstory is Jango Fett's backstory from the expanded universe that they verbatim took.
Wow.
And then they end up, I mean, people did like the idea. I liked the idea of them just taking a random ass dude and, create your own character. Okay, don't be Boba Fett. Don't do anything like that because you've proven that you can't handle it at that point. And they at least made it somewhat entertaining. And then they even ruined that.
I got to get everybody saying.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can. What?
Why would you do that, Alan? Here's the leak that everyone keeps talking about. So to the chat and the viewers, if you do not want to see this, look away. We've gained viewers. So that says something. Here we go. I'm going to share it. It's a 15-second clip out of context, and people are speculating. Let's look at it. All right. Yes, we agree.
Oh yeah.
One's left. All right.
Yeah. Yep.
Here we go.
Start from the beginning, and then put it on the screen.
I'll rerun it. It's 15 seconds. That's either May or OSHA back there.
We can't see
we can't see it because it's.
You got to put it on the. You got to put it on the screen.
I don't want to pull a drunk 3PO where we sit here quietly the whole time thinking you can see it, but just so you know.
It'll loop
There you
around.
go.
This. Okay. Look real close. That's May or OSHA in the background. That's Saul.
And that's Keemer right there.
Maybe Keemer or someone else.
No,
like
his lightsaber was black, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or is that
Doesn't
OSHA?
matter. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's probably
It's
OSHA.
definitely a woman, right? It's like a woman's hand.
I don't know, because I thought Chimere's body at one point looked like a very slender, and then all of a sudden, when he's actually fighting, he's all jacked. I was like, "What the?" So maybe they use body doubles or stand-ins. I don't know.
Can we not assume gender, please?
Yeah, really, we're not being progressive here.
I don't know what this is. It's probably a scene from episode 8.
Okay, well, I just want to point out. Well, I don't know why Coral would have a lightsaber. Like this is a Jedi weapon, so it was. That's why I continue.
No, it's not. It's a Sith weapon and a Jedi tool. That is actually a quote. It's a Sith weapon and a Jedi tool.
It's been shown that the witches, they don't use weapons like that. I don't know.
They're above
but they
it.
might change. I don't know. I've never seen the Night Sisters do that in any form. Whatever we have to specify.
I think.
All right, enough of that.
Past aligning.
It looks like a woman's hand.
The thing is, they've broken. They've used both Disney and Legends canon, and they've gone against both Disney and Legends canon. So there's no point in guessing what rule, because they're not playing according to any rule.
And that's why you don't have to let it try and hurt your love of Star Wars, because they have no establishment of rules.
Yeah, no.
They can't ruin it for you. Really.
So that was it.
Before
That was
the
the leak?
2012 purchase, it's like it says on the back of this.
Yeah, it could be Man's hand. I don't know.
Also, I gotta say, for a studio to be so girl power and the forces, female and all this other bullshit, it's weird to me that they go out of their way to strip all their female characters of their femininity.
Oh yeah.
Like they go out of their way to strip their female characters of their femininity. You guys brought up Underworld, and you brought up
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, right? I remember I was with my ex and her friend, and we went to go watch Underworld. All they talked about was how sexy Kate Beckinsale looked.
Yeah.
The women were talking
Yeah.
about how sexy Kate Beckinsale looked. I don't understand the, in order for women to be taken serious or for them to be badasses, they have to be men. Basically,
can I say that, because like this goes into politics, and I mean there's so many parallels in the entertainment world and the political world about how fans are handled, how the Republicans are being handled, all this shit, and it's all misguided the way that they shape the narrative. Because when you talk about a matriarchy, they're talking about breasts, physical breasts being put into politics. Look, it's a matriarchy now that there are boobs in the house. That's not a matriarchy. A feminine person can be man, can be woman. I am a feminine guy. I'm a creative person. I'm way less macho and masculine. I don't have pissing contests with my buddies and stuff. I'm a feminine guy. You're looking to get politicians like me. You're looking to get women more creative, more, hey, let's see, maybe it could work better like this, more empathetic. That's the sort of energy that we're looking for, a soft energy, not a hard energy. Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, those are masculine females. So there's a big difference between getting actual femininity on screen and getting women on screen. They're getting a whole lot of women on screen, but there is not a drop of femininity in most of these movies.
And I hate to bring up a better show, but if you look at House of the Dragon, right?
Yes.
Those two queens are badass.
Yes,
I love those two queens, and I'm like,
reasons though.
But they're so good. They're so damn good, and they're both badass in their own right. And I don't. That to me, that's femininity, right? That's how you write a strong female character. Are those two queens?
And
you
you
want
can point
real
to,
Sorry, go ahead, Elaine.
No, go ahead. Well, I was just going to point to Fallout and Arcane, which does contain a sister storyline. Like they're multidimensional, they're complex, they're not butched up. They're still like female characters, but that's not their identity. They know how to write a good story, and they put in the work clearly to create a quality journey for both of them, in particular with Arcane. And I love that. And we have these examples of these wonderfully written female characters to where, like, Disney Lucasfilm, you don't have that excuse. You've never had it really to use, because there's so many examples of well-written female characters. But it's so obvious you're using minorities just to justify your crap storytelling, and just to justify you're just shelling out this basically garbage assembly line of product, rather than delivering something of quality to your fan base.
I think Arcane might be one of the best examples of that, right? For me.
Here's an example of masculinity right here. Good job, Alan.
This is film threat.
Okay.
I just think it's faux feminism, right? It's the illusion.
It's fake. It's fake feminism.
Yeah, it's the illusion of feminism.
Yeah, it's not actual feminism at all. That's the thing that makes me most pissed off. I'm an original bleeding heart liberal. I'm 41 years old. When I was in school, I was a social justice warrior. Nobody was fucking talking about what we were doing to Native Americans and black people and all of the insidious shit that was going on. And what they did was they did the same thing they do with everything. They did with pollution. Now pollution's climate change. And it's very focused. And what we're going to do about it is very focused. And we're not looking at the big picture. We're just looking at a little thing. And the same thing here. They focus all of our social shit, everything that was like, hey, there's a whole system of abuse going on and we need to change it. And they went, oh, well, look, we'll change it in this specific way. And actually, instead, we'll just fight about it for forever. And nothing actually happens. And I just feel so aggravated about all of these fake super liberals who should know, if they really care, they would look deeper into everything that they're supporting, and they would realize it's not doing anything. It's not saving nobody. Nobody's getting a better world because they're supporting the freaking Democratic Party right now. And as long as they allow them to just roll out any candidate, even if they know they can't win, that they're not popular, like this sort of behavior is just like, it's so broken. But this is the Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars behavior. It's up. Well, the money says do this, so we're just going to keep doing it, and it does not matter.
But it's not about the money.
It's
not about the money. Kathleen Kennedy hates Star Wars.
And so does
She
the money
hates
who
Star Wars.
finance the movies. They hate it too.
We got to get to supers here, but I want to share something real quick. Jesse B. Snider has a campaign on Kickstarter. The link will be in the description of this episode. It's a comic series that I bought the first one. This is Effing for Our Future. I don't know how much of this I can show. It's very sexy, great packages. I buy comics and I contribute to indie movies on Kickstarter all the time. Give us a quick plug and we'll put the link in the description.
The basic plug is this. I've been working in professional comics for 20 years. I've worked for Marvel. I've worked for DC. I've worked for Disney, Pixar, all the majors. This book basically ends my ability to do anything in the mainstream. But I did it because right now on Kickstarter, there is a shitload of unscrupulous comic book companies who are making about $100,000 every single campaign. And if you don't help a creative person like me to take hold of this industry, we are going to be stuck with the same type of infrastructure and people just taking advantage of us forever. I did this to subvert the whole genre. Most people are selling sex and it's gross and they've got crappy artists and there's no meaning behind anything. This is great. We're lampooning men versus women and like the ultra feminist movement that we've got going on in a great way. Men love it. Women love it. It's essentially a Roadrunner cartoon between girls and boys. And I dare you to go check it out. You will see that it is far deeper than it has any fucking right to be. And I literally made it as an artistic exercise so that I could vehemently fight with anyone on the internet who tries to call it porn and say that it's anything short of brilliant and groundbreaking. Nobody's ever done anything like it before. I'm here to fucking show that I've got the ideas to take over this industry for good and for better and to put a lot of great artists to work for a really fucking long time. So if you love comic books like I do, please back me up here and friggin' get behind this book. I promise our short run, whatever it ends up being, 1,000 or a few thousand of the book, it'll be worth something one day because you got in at the ground floor. Thanks so much, Chris, for having me on so I could talk about it. And thanks, Alan, for buying the last book. And Chris.
And I bought it too. And you're like the white Eric July, I see, but with tips.
Well, and the difference between me and Eric July is I've been working professionally in comics. I've been publishing since I was 19 years old. I went to CW Post. I was the A&E editor. I used to produce an 8-page pullout every week. My first portfolio out of high school was all the work that I had ever done, writing and otherwise, in a magazine that I made. I'm a publisher. This is what I do. I know how to package things and make them nice, make other people look nice. And, that's why I got into it. At the end of the day, I wanted to be a writer and work for Marvel and DC and make great things for them. But the system's not built to help me help them. So at some point I said, fuck this. I'm doing it on my own and I'm going to show them how it's done. So if you want to see somebody who knows how to fucking do it and who also knows how to get out of the way and let other people come and do it. We did a book last time with for Mythic Legions. I got Greg Weisman, and I didn't fucking tell him what to do. I let Greg Weisman write a great comic book. And the same way that I'm going to be letting all of these people do great work for my company as we move forward. So please, this is like ground floor level for me to really just get ahead of the lines that we have, be able to go into licensing next year, which we have a few books lined up that we're going to license, and then expand beyond that into a real comic book company that you'll be able to see at the stores and all this stuff, and not just be doing this Kickstarter bullshit anymore. Because for me, I'm a pro. I've never done this before. I've had to teach myself how to be a media man, teach myself how to be a social media man. And I build all the Kickstarter stuff for us, all the images and Photoshop, all this stuff. It's a lot of fucking work, but it's worth it if we can find an audience. And I really do believe that most of the real gourmand people have gone online, and we're finding places like Film Threat where we can find people talking about film legitimately and not fucking shilling for every other company. So for me, it's about going to the fans and the people who love great entertainment and trying to see if I can connect those dots for them. And so far, people love the book. So I've been really grateful.
Check out the link in the description. Let's go to supers as we wrap up. Alan and I have to get to a screening. tonight, actually.
Nice.
And he's driving from Orange County. So let's go.
Jimmy Francis comes a YouTube member. Shout out,
All
Jimmy.
right.
Great U.S. treasure hunt for 2. Leslie is the acolyte. Her master was imprisoned.
No, she has a new master now.
Fearless Kathy. Fearless Wolf for 10. The acolyte cuts to the scene in Phantom Menace where Anakin, when he is getting tested, when everybody leaves, the only Jedi who remains has fallen asleep. It is Jedi Master Yazriel or Yariel Proof. Yeah.
I love Yarl Poof.
Yes.
What?
The big gray alien with the long neck. Warfire 0 for 20. Hey, Chris, did you ever see the 90s TV series Dawson's Creek, season 1, episode 9, when Dawson Leary tries to pick up the college girl in the bar who was wearing a Film Threat t-shirt? Cool seeing Film Threat merch in classic media.
That's right. So the producers at Dawson's Creek were fans of Film Threat. They contacted me and I sent them a shirt and some magazines. And they had this character, this girl who was a filmmaker, and she's wearing a Film Threat t-shirt in season 1, episode 9 of Dawson's Creek.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of secret. There's also Film Threat magazines in episodes of The Sopranos, oddly, that are on the coffee table.
Cool.
Yeah, so Film Threat pops up. Also, Mallrats. There's Film Threat magazines on the newsstand. There's a lot of secret Film Threat fans that just like work it in a little reference. So I'm very humbled and proud that people like Film Threat. So there you go.
That's
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah. Thanks, Warfire.
Red French Moon for 2 versus Ding 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 round 1. My money on Badger. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, we need a better fight next time. So
Protagonist.
Yeah, you guys
for
gotta fight
$9.99.
better.
I know. Come on.
Only
if you want me to
appeal
turn
for a
heel, I
kid.
can, but I just don't want to be mean to Badger. I like him.
If we didn't have to get going, I would have argued on several points. Only appeal for a kid to be a Jedi is a lightsaber and an outfit, certainly not their intelligence or deeds.
Protagonist. Thank you very much.
Yes. MK Solid for 2. Tomorrow they will ruin the Sith. I guarantee it.
Oh, that dude, we're looking past that rearview menu window right mirror right now, man. It's done.
Yeah.
They ruined that a long time ago.
I'll just say, whatever it is, it'll be spectacular.
Nice sisters. No one's safe.
Protagonist member for 3 months. Chris's soul impersonation is better than the show.
Osha, I feel a connection. I would like to connect with you. Are you USB or lightning cable? I would like to connect in whatever way we can connect. Give me your AIM messenger number.
He might as well have been driving around in the ice cream
We're
truck.
looking
Man.
for virgins.
Digital ASL. MK Solid for $4.99. Yoda was supposed to be the hive mind of the Jedi Republic. How would he not know about all this crap going on? He felt it when Mace Windu was killed.
Yeah, he would
It
know,
doesn't
but
matter.
they don't care about that.
Doesn't matter.
Depth Walker for 10. Directly affecting living creatures with the Force is hard, even themselves. Hence the lack of flying Jedi. A push or pull for a moment is one thing, but a lift and carrying for a protracted period. Yeah.
Still could have tried.
What was this in reference
Still
to?
could have done it. I would reference Yoda lifting a very heavy X-Wing and Count Dooku floating many a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just on for 5. G-Man for 5. I'm just on YouTube trying
Isn't
to
like
find
everything
Applegate.
sort of okay if you get convinced that it's okay? Like a little bit of struggle in the story goes a long way to the audience going, well, they worked real hard for that. It's just like when it's like simple that like you get pissed off, I think.
Don't
All right, wait,
invalidate.
read that
sacred-
again. Read that again. We
I
got to
said,
get.
don't invalidate the sacred super chat reading. G-Man
I'm so
for 5.
sorry.
I'm just on YouTube trying to find apple cake recipes. This is pretty good too, though.
Thanks, G-Man. Appreciate it.
Melvin Deeply for 2. Badger! And then Fire.
Fire.
Kaylee for 5. Have you all seen the Star Wars I Used to Know parody? Oh, but I
No,
guess we know.
Alan's
I guess
gonna find
it.
it right now.
Well, that's from like a
Thanks,
decade
Kaylee.
ago.
Ministry of Wrong Think for 1999. Headland's damage control interview about the witches not actually having power of their own, that they got their power from the planet makes no sense. Why are they hiding from the galaxy if they didn't have powers before? That's not what she said, but I understand it was a horrible interview. What she said was they have a basic level of magic that's not explained, and that they use the Force to augment it, and that they use the Force Nexus in that pit or Virgins to augment it further.
Oh, that was in the pit?
Yeah.
I was
Not
wondering
around
what
the
that
girls.
was.
Yeah, I know. It's so
They're
convoluted.
worshiping a hole. I
Fearless
don't know.
Wolf for 20. Yeah, well, it's giggity. It's a whole another meaning. Two of the best franchise writers are Ronald D. Moore and Ira Stephen Bear for Star Trek and Battlestar. They talk about it in the DS9 doc that they had to battle the studios to stop them from trying to screw up Star Trek.
Yeah, I've seen that documentary. It's fantastic.
Yep.
And when you see these really smart showrunners that understand their characters and the world, it changes everything. And Leslie just seems very confused. Like, I don't feel informed after she gives an answer. I feel like I didn't.
Like she doesn't know.
You feel
Right,
more
she
confused,
doesn't know.
if anything.
I think she should know these things.
Yeah. Also,
just
by the
a
way,
lot of
I
thinking
stand
going
behind Battlestar. I know they didn't stick the landing in the end, but
I
I
love
stand behind
Battlestar.
that
I
show.
still love that
It's a great
show.
show.
I love the end. I know it's controversial, but I think
I didn't
there
mind
were
the end
some
at all.
good-
I just
Yeah.
it's grown on me.
It's the same.
Come to terms. Go on.
There's
Graph
there-
Web.
yeah.
What? Go ahead.
I can
What?
talk about Battlestar. Like
Oh,
a
okay.
Yeah,
Graph Web for 2. For the love of God, for fuck's sake. Hashtag cancel Disney Plus. You have to summon it. The Wild Man of Yavin for 5. I stand by my statement after the first week. Trinity is the big Sith reveal.
Could still happen. Could still happen. So
I would believe anything
out.
at this point after those interviews.
I mean,
She
that
didn't die
could
on
have
the
been her
planet, that's
hand. Is that what the leak was referring to? That was a bad guy, that was a Sith, and that is that what the leak was?
I think
Or
they
the
just think the
video?
leak was the leak, and it's whatever we take
I
from
mean,
it. But
what? I
It
just
did sort
assumed
of
it
look
was
like
a
May.
Sith, but
maybe
It'd be
I don't
too
know.
logical for her to be the bad guy, because then that would preclude the
It's about
strategy of making her
power.
death to be evil.
well, it's so funny to say whether or not debating about whether or not she's a bad guy. She clearly kind of was a bad guy already. She was very elitist, and I
Didn't train her
don't
Padawan
get
well.
she didn't train her Padawan well, but she thought she did, and she
Oh,
I guess
Indara?
murdered all of those witches. But the way Leslie Headland described it was that it was selfish for her to try to rescue Kalnaka in
It's
that
so
moment, but
stupid.
she also didn't know what would happen, so it was also a benevolent act. So that's what I'm saying. Like, she doesn't know. She doesn't have any conviction in regards to any of these characters'
She made it
journeys.
seem
So
like she
it's
had to do that. She had to give Master Indara a fault, and her one fault is that she frees Kalnaka, not knowing that it would kill. But it's like, how the hell would she know the
but
intricacies
also
of whatever this
later,
magic is?
she's like almost getting into a physical altercation with Soul.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
Jedi don't do that. And she's supposed to be
No.
like the best Jedi in this whole situation. And even then, she's like falling short extremely. Like, every
It's also
Jedi in
horrible.
this is a bad guy in just a certain respect. It's just a shade of how bad they are.
Mm-hmm.
So just a reminder, funeral for franchise Wednesday, July 17th. That's this Wednesday in the afternoon. It's a global event. It's going to boggle the mind how many YouTubers and prominent people will be on. We have Ryan Johnson coming on, or maybe a Ryan Johnson impersonator.
No, it's
but
Ryan Johnson. It's Ryan
George,
Johnson.
yeah, no, Ryan Johnson. George
Rowan
Lucas,
Johnson?
lesbian R2D2.
Is there any
It's
other
really
kind?
it's going to be spectacular. So please come and watch and jump in and join us for that funeral. Also, tomorrow night, right after Acolyte, Alan and I will be live with Hollywood on the Rocks. We're doing our finale shows. So I don't know, maybe should other people pop by, or just you and me, Alan? I don't know,
because we got the big Star Wars thing on.
Yeah. So I don't want to like you guys have your own channels. I assume some of you are doing your own live streams. Check all of them out. All the links to all the guests, our guests today, in the description of the show. Alan, did I forget anything?
Other than Comic-Con, just we'll be there and we have some signings.
Yes, we will be at Comic-Con, which is going to be a lot of fun. That is next week. We've got signing cards. I see.
Yes. Gabe El Taib designed something for us to sign.
So here, if you want to see Alan in I don't even know what this is. It's crazy, but Alan looks good.
Yeah.
Here's our schedule. Check it out. We will be at San Diego Comic-Con. It's going to be a blast. All right. I want to thank everybody here. This was great. This is amazing. So
It's fun as always.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
What do you have to plug? Anybody? What do you have to plug? Dante, you're muted. Unmute yourself. Plug away all your stuff, all your campaigns or channels. Go for it.
I'm streaming right after this immediately on my channel, Angry Badger, with Nerd Wars and Mr. Tech Rat. And we will also be at the meetup on the 24th to see in real life, at least at the bar pizza place meetup. Don't actually get to go to Comic.
Last minute super just came in from Watch Closely.
Watch Closely for 7. Happy Monday, sending you lots of good vibes. So what's on the menu for dinner tonight?
Not sure. Not sure. All right, plug away, everybody. Plug.
All right, so guys, you can find me Verbal Riot on YouTube and Rumble, also X soon, and we'll be doing a live. I will be doing a live show Thursday. I'll be at the funeral Wednesday, so you're gonna see a lot of me.
Great, Badger, you're going live right after this.
Yeah, 3:15.
Go to Badger's channel. DA.
Yeah, I got the nightcap will be coming up later on tonight, late in the evening. Probably if you're on the East Coast, it's going to be well past your bedtime, but I'll be up streaming probably today, tomorrow after the Acolyte. I'll also be streaming. Also got the DA's office every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So join us. We're going to have a lot of fun discussing whatever happens tomorrow night.
It's gonna get wild. Elaine, your latest video is in my watch history. I have not watched it yet. I like to savor your videos.
Aw,
So,
that's so nice.
yeah. So,
Well, thank you. I've got more Dune videos coming out, so check it out.
And did I forget anybody? Jesse, we got the link.
I'm gonna post right now. You know, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm posting it right into the stream. This is a Dropbox link with my Marvel work, DC work in PDFs, full comic book for free. What are they gonna do? Yell at me? They're all posted for free. Go read, go see the level of writing that I have been doing dedicated to this for 20 years. And then read Fucking For Our Future. It's in there too. It's free. And if you want to back us, go get a book. We got 22 hours. So please, thanks so much, Chris. Thanks, Alan, for having me on. And Alan, give me your address because I have to send you.
I just DM'd you about that. So
okay, good.
No, put it in the chat for us all to see. I want to send you.
Yes.
And thanks to our mod, Lord Thoth, Atomic Glory, Glenn Brown, our producer. And thanks to you, we keep growing. We appreciate you. We're going to keep doing this show because I know you like it. We're probably not going to talk about, I don't think we're going to talk about Acolyte next week. I get a feeling we may not be discussing it. So, Alan?
Yes.
That's not what I meant, Alan.
Let's get out of here.
Yes.
No, what did you say?
Yeah. What? Let's get
didn't
out of
hear you.
here. Let's get out of here. We gotta